that sometimes gets overlooked in teaching a class is why is it we're trying to adapt the audience? I think the idea of adapting the audience is not new. We learn it when we're writing an essay, it gets talked about all the time, but sometimes we don't think about why is it necessary so, and I think from a communications point of view, one can say it is really it's only the teacher who has the flexibility in making things happen, and the audience does not. You get your students as they come and they're in your classroom, but you're the only ones who have the power to modify the learning environment for your students. So, and if you truly believe in that and take ownership of that responsibility, then you will try to, and I think that probably will, I think everyone will get better with experience, from last year's class or from your experience of teaching other type of GE classes or other kind of classes, that you know some of the challenges that your students might come, and you want to put that in your planning. And I think the better a teacher can do that, then the more effective the teacher can become.
We presented a week ago on some new teaching techniques because I really feel that it's important that we think about learners. We're dealing with a generation of students who are engaging in technology in ways that I think my generation and earlier generations really didn't. They're expecting us to think about and use these methods in a new way. I think in particular we were talking about Prezi, and Prezi to me is something that is out there on the internet now that people are talking about because it's becoming really a new way of looking at teaching. I learned about Prezi through the TED Talks that are being sponsored. I think that in a way they offer this opportunity to integrate movies, moving images, action into education in a way that we haven't really seen before. I know that I myself have struggled many times trying to move from a PowerPoint to movie to some other avenue on the computer, and it can be a humbling and fumble-filled experience. But Prezi really offers you this opportunity to sort of integrate this stuff and move seamlessly from talking, lecturing in a more traditional style to using multimedia in your presentations, and I found it very helpful for me. I was really interested in the way that you can set up collaborative workspaces on Prezi and let students go in and work together and then seamlessly put those pieces together into a larger class presentation that can be used for larger learning purposes.
In addition to introducing Prezi to our audience, another thing that we wanted to do is to have somewhat of a platform generic or a software generic approach to presenting, to do a presentation. So we want not only to help introduce a new piece of technology to our audience, but we also want to show our audience some techniques that could be helpful in helping them to make their presentations more effective. When it gets to the slide designs, typically people use PowerPoint or Keynote these days, but sometimes things get too busy, so we talked about a little bit of things about the reasons why people do some of the things they do, and what are some of the things that would work and some don't, and I have a couple of suggestions about how you can clean up the noise in your slide presentation so that your message can get across to your audience effectively. Much of the insights from my part of the presentation comes from this book called Trees, Maps, and Theories by Jean-Luc Dumont. So his way of looking at presentation is more of a minimalist approach. He believes that really the presenter is really the center of the presentation, and what you're using, whether you're using Prezi, you're using PowerPoint, or Keynote, what you're putting on the screen is a supplement to what you're doing. So you want to put some important message up on the screen, but not definitely to the point where you're putting things that are really busy and people start to read the slide and they're having to divide their attention between what you're putting on the screen and between what you're trying to say. And I think one of the most common complaint instructors have is like, well, how do I balance between what I'm trying to say and what I put on the screen? Part of the point of coming to a lecture is to hear what the instructor has to say. So there are some principles that I try to go over and some techniques that will help us in finding that perhaps happy balance between what between your message and your supplemental material, and hopefully that presentation went to achieve that goal.
As students learn about these techniques, they are expecting us to know about these techniques as well. It's not something that, in the olden days, as I'll call them, people didn't have the ability to look things up on the internet and find it so quickly, but now that I think that people can find this information and use it on their own, they're really expecting us as teachers to also think about how to use these things and integrate them into learning and integrate them into collaboration and other activities that students do. I received my first assignment handed in to me on Prezi this last week, and I think it's a sign of what's to come, and the ways that we need to think about engaging students is changing, and we need to really get behind some of these ideas and think about what the younger generation needs and wants from teaching and what they need and want as learners.